Hey guys, I'm back, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a movie review on the Odyssey. This was released in 2026, it stars Matt Damon, Tom Holland and Anne Hathaway. In this film, Odysseus, king of Ithaca, embarks on a perilous journey to return home after the Trojan War. Crossing the Mediterranean Sea with his fellow soldiers, they soon find themselves battling not only the elements but an array of deadly obstacles and mythical creatures along the way. It is, of course, the story of the Odyssey. Now, point of reference, I have no attachment to the story of the Odyssey, and before going into this, I didn't know an awful lot about it either. If I remember correctly, I learned about it in primary school at one point, and I've listened to the whole of Epic the Musical, and that was the extent of my Odyssey knowledge before watching this film. And I'm not massively familiar with Christopher Nolan either. I really liked Oppenheimer. I've seen the first two films in the Dark Knight trilogy. I watched The Prestige when I was a lot younger. I've watched Dunkirk in school. That is it. I'm not a massive Christopher Nolan fan because I haven't seen most of his movies, so I didn't have an awful lot of expectations going into this, but you know, I was looking forward to it despite my lack of experience with both the Odyssey and Christopher Nolan, and you know, I was just hoping for a film that was engaging and thrilling. So without further ado, let's begin with this review. So of course, like I said, I have no attachment to the story, so I can't say how good of an adaptation of that story this film is, but what I can say is that Christopher Nolan completely succeeded in bringing this story to life on a cinematic level, and just in making a film that is so immersive and spectacular that it can work for anyone, including those who don't know anything about the story of the Odyssey. Watching this film, it is so clear how much effort went into every element of the production of this thing, and obviously it's a huge film both in runtime and scale, which just makes the final product even more impressive. Of course, so much of it was done practically. It uses practical effects and physical sets, and it was shot in actual locations, and you really just feel that while watching the film, especially because so many blockbusters released nowadays are so sort of CGI and green screen heavy and can feel quite fake. The Odyssey does not feel fake, and when you have a film that is this big and is this epic and it feels as real as it does, that is incredible. It is incredible what they achieved with this film. This is a film that excels in so many departments when it comes to the filmmaking and the technical elements. The cinematography is genuinely stunning. The sound design is excellent. Of course, it's very, very, very loud sound design, but that is to be expected. Ludwig Göransson, however you say his name, person who scored Oppenheimer, is back to do the music in this film, and the music is as epic as you would expect. And there are also just some thrilling set pieces in this film. This is one of those films that just comes along every once in a while that reminds you why it is you go to cinemas and why films are just so awesome. This is absolutely, you know, a film that I would recommend to anyone. I think, you know, obviously everyone should go out and see this because it's just such a thrilling cinematic experience, and obviously, you know, a film that you need to see on the biggest screen possible, in the biggest format possible. I personally watched this film in a Cineworld Super Screen, which was the biggest format I could watch this film in, and you know, it's big and loud, and it was a great way to experience this film. But I also feel like I could watch this film on my phone or on a portable DVD player and still be completely immersed because of how well done it is on a technical level and just how breathtaking it is. Something this film does quite well is balancing the spectacle with Odysseus's character journey, and while I think this film is stronger on a technical level and just an experience level than on a narrative level, I do still think it does a good job of getting you invested in the more personal journey for Odysseus alongside the big actual journey he is going on, and they do a solid job with his character arc in this film. Of course, this film has an absolutely huge cast. It rivals Oppenheimer when it comes to just how star-studded it is, and you know, I don't think the entire cast blew me away or anything, but there are some great performances in this film. Matt Damon is, you know, gives a very strong performance and is very capable in the leading role in this absolutely huge film. You also get very solid performances from Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Jon Bernthal, John Leguizamo, Samantha Morton. Just great commitment from the cast as a whole. I also didn't have the issue of being taken out of the movie because all the actors are celebrities. I mean, of course, there are a lot of really famous actors in this film. I forgot that Anne Hathaway and Jon Bernthal were in it when I watched it. So, you know, seeing them show up, it was just a bit like, you know, even more famous actors in this film. But again, I was never taken out of the movie or anything because of that, which I think says a lot about, again, the commitment of the cast. It was a bit jarring seeing Travis Scott show up, but he's not terrible in the small amount of the film he's in. Like I said, I think this film is a bit stronger on like just an experience level than on a narrative level. This film does have non-linear storytelling, of course, nothing new for Christopher Nolan. I think that was one of the weaker elements of this film. I thought this film was maybe a little bit hard to fully get into at first, like the first sort of portion of this film, maybe like 20-30 minutes, although they had, you know, the great technical elements and performances. I found it a little bit difficult to get invested in the characters and what it was everyone was doing, and I don't know if you know, it's immediately the most accessible for people who aren't super familiar with the story of the Odyssey, but you know, that was just my experience with it. I wasn't like extremely nervous about the rest of the film or anything because of it, but I don't think the film is really the strongest at first. I think the film really sort of finds its footing fully once the actual Odyssey begins, but even then, everything that was going on in the first little bit of the film before that, I think ends up feeling somewhat underbaked throughout the rest of the film. I mean, I might feel completely differently on a rewatch, but you know, I don't know if the balance between the Odyssey itself and everything that was going on in Ithaca was, I don't know if the balance between those things was perfect, but you know, that was just my experience with it. There was also one CGI element in this film that I thought was I kind of thought it was somewhat weak when I watched it, but that issue may fully go away on rewatch because you know, it may very well just be a thing of, you know, the rest of the film is again sort of, you know, looks so real that seeing something that was CGI looked a bit out of place, but that's just kind of how I felt about that. But really, you know, I don't have any major issues with this film or any other negatives I can think of at the moment. This film's been out for quite a bit at this point, and I feel like everything that can be said about it has been said, but there's no denying it. This film is an absolute must-see. It's the only film of its kind out at the moment, probably the only film of its kind we're going to get for quite a while, and just an absolutely terrific film on so many levels and a fantastic cinematic experience, one that I would recommend to anyone. I'm going to give the Odyssey an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching this review. If you did enjoy, please do remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to. If you have seen this film, feel free to let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.